I'm Mark Trexler with the Climatographers, and I've spent most of the 30 years that I've worked on climate change down in the weeds of particular topics, just like everyone else. But recently I've been focusing more and more on the question of what could we do if we had the big picture when it comes to tackling climate change. And that's what I'm going to explore very quickly in this video. Climate change is a wicked problem, and it's considered that by social scientists. And to me, it raises the question of, can a big picture perspective make progress where 100 climate silos are still struggling to do so after 30 years of trying? And what if the ideas and insights of hundreds of experts of all kinds could be combined into a collective intelligence of some kind to support climate strategies and tactics? With that one sentence, you basically understand what we have been trying to do with what we call the climate web for the last several years. I've jumped into the climate web itself just to show you a little bit of what I'm talking about, and I've jumped to the wicked problem deep dive. Now, that's not really just random. Albert Einstein had a very interesting quote: if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem, 5 minutes thinking about the solutions. We don't do that. We spend 55 minutes at least thinking about the solutions. And one of the interesting aspects of the problem is that climate change is a wicked problem. The people working on this believe that that explains why we're not making much progress on climate change. So I thought this would be an interesting place to come in. So this is an index entry. There are thousands of them in the climate web. You can go down to more index entries. You can go up to more index entries. You can come over to a sources category. There are news headings, graphics, videos, knowledge bases, all sorts of stuff lined up. You can come to the sources, climate change as a wicked problem, that opens up sort of the specific literature looking at climate change as a wicked problem. Just picking 2016 to freeze, you can see that that report is actually here. It actually pops up right there in the climate web. But if I click on that thought, you'll see something else. You'll see that, yes, the report is there. You can actually look at it and read it. But we also have extracted some key ideas, some key thoughts, key paragraphs, key graphics from the report so that you can get a lot of value out of this without wading through the 150-page report. Now, if I click on one of these thoughts, you can see a couple things. There are more thoughts under it. You can see that it refers to a particular paper. Here's that paper. It links back to the original source. Everything always does. But you can also see that this idea links into something that we call a knowledge base for wicked problems. And knowledge bases, I'm going to click on that. Knowledge bases pull together ideas from all kinds of sources on that topic. So you're getting away from individual sources to a collective thinking about a particular topic. And for any of these ideas that you see here, you can jump right back to their original source because it's all linked together. Now, you can go up in this sort of knowledge-based category. If I go to decision-making barriers, you can see that you can then go down: willful blindness, utility maximization, risk illiteracy, cognitive biases, all kinds of things. You can see that it links back over into the index barriers at every turn, and that allows you to then sort of take a closer look at barriers to business action, barriers to climate communications, barriers to climate investing. You get the idea. This is a massive amount of information linked together in a massive knowledge web, but you can actually navigate this index and navigate the climate web in a matter of minutes to get to almost anything you might be looking for, including things that you had never really thought of as being relevant to a question that you are trying to answer. Now, I'm going to show you another thing we can do with the climate web by clicking on this tag at the top. I already showed you that lots of information is organized in the climate web. What I'm showing you here is a particular tag, a dashboard 101 systemic risk. Again, a topic that I haven't really picked at random. It's a key topic. That the discussion of systemic risk around climate change is expanding rapidly, but relatively few people are part of that discussion yet. What we've done here is tagged and pulled together a small number of index entries that are relevant, headings that are relevant, sources that are relevant, ideas that are relevant, so you can quickly come up to speed on this particular issue. And we can do this and we do this for many other topics, carbon pricing, national security, all kinds of things. But you can do it for any topic and at any level of sophistication, for a beginner, for more advanced. So you can slice and dice the knowledge that's coming from all of these different sources into any kind of collection of information that might serve as actionable knowledge for somebody interested in and working on this topic. So I've jumped back out of that very quick tour of the climate web, and you can look at all that stuff on your own if you go into the climate web. But what I'd like to pose now is a few questions in terms of, if a collective climate knowledge management system makes sense, and I personally think it does, how can the climate web help? I would argue that the climate web is already, in effect, a minimum viable product to demonstrate the idea of a collective intelligence. It reflects the work of just two people. Imagine what 100 or 1,000 could do, collaborating together towards an actionable collective knowledge. It can be easily sliced and diced in all kinds of ways. That's the beauty of this particular software that we've been working with for a number of years. And because we have so much in there from so many experts, that's why we tend to think that if there is an answer to climate change, it probably is already in the climate web. But we don't necessarily know exactly what it is. That's not what I'm arguing. I would really appreciate your help in sort of advancing this idea or providing us feedback on this idea, whether it's helping advise us, whether it's talking about the climate web to people whether it's helping to get the climate web in front of people and organizations who really could use a big picture on this. And again, we can provide any kind of big picture that makes sense for a particular purpose. And you might even have contributions to make to the climate web content. So I'm going to wrap up here. Contact information on the left. The quote on the right is from a private sector use of the climate web in a consulting capacity and a strategic planning and scenario planning capacity. I would really welcome the opportunity to follow up with you on this and get your thinking and feedback. Thanks.